Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LARP Tales podcast. My name is Oliver. I am one half of your hosting duo. With me, as always, is my co-host and wife, Robyn. Hi, Robyn.
Hello, Oliver.
So no recap, no guest today. We thought we would have a discussion about something that does come up in LARP and role-playing games, and that is Bleed. So we are currently 3 weeks away from the start of our Fest LARP season. Here in the UK's Empire LARP, the first Empire LARP is like 3 weeks. Hang on, is it 3 weeks this Thursday or something?
Stop counting down the weeks, okay? No one's ready. No one's packed. No one needs to know how many weeks there are.
Yeah, it's quick. And we thought there's been a few things going on in the forums and on Facebook and in Discord servers and things like that. Bleed has come up a few times. Funnily enough, it's coming up among established LARP players. There is also a large contingent of new LARPers, specifically in Empire, coming, and I've seen you all in the forums, and I'm really hyped because I absolutely love new players. I love the energy they bring, and I love welcoming them into the game and into the community. And
yeah,
I thought, well, there's a lot of new people coming in. They might be seeing a lot of the stuff that's kind of being talked about when it comes to especially with some of the language as well, like OC, IC. I thought we would just go over Bleed, our thoughts on Bleed, what Bleed actually is. Before all that, though, if you are watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing. If you are watching us, if you're not watching us, if you are listening to us on a audio platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us a 5-star review. That helps people find us everywhere. Go check out our Patreon as well if you want to chuck us like a couple of bucks. Currently like $3 a month is what it's set at. Literally it's just like, it's a bit of a tip jar, really. You are of course under no obligation to do so. You can enjoy our content completely for free. Right, let's start this episode of LARP Tales. Bleed. I thought this would be a good idea to go over kind of what Bleed is to start with, and then we can talk about our personal experiences with Bleed. This is going to be a little bit entangled because of some of the conversations I've been reading today. This is going to be entangled with like out of character, in character. So I thought I would say this for non-LARPers. I need to do some research and maybe do a video on LARP terminology as well, because I know there's a lot of terminology that sometimes even I get confused at. There's LARP terminology when it comes to a certain game like Empire. There's LARP terminology that's used in the UK, in Europe, worldwide. So sometimes I don't know whether I'm saying, if I say ICOC, I don't know whether people listening in the States know what that means. I'm going to assume, but just to make it clear, because we'll probably say this a lot during this conversation, is IC and OC. IC in character, OC out of character. Sometimes written it's OC or OOC, out of character. So if you see someone say OC or OOC, that means out of character, which I think is good context. Do you have a good definition in your head, Robyn, of what Bleed actually is?
Well, to me, Bleed in LARP is when something that happens within the actual game itself. So I see something happens that then affects yourself, OC, your actual self, out of the game. And on the flip side of that, something that's happening OC, so outside of the game, is then affecting how you do things inside the game, or how you react with certain people, or how you treat certain people, and so on. That's how I see Bleed in LARP, basically.
Yeah, so it's a term that's used in all role-playing games, so you definitely be familiar with the term if you are a TTRPG player. Bleed is yeah, I think I would agree with pretty much all of what you said there. Um, yeah, it's basically the emotion of the character bleeding through into that's where the term comes from. It's like it's a
Yeah.
bleeding of something into something else, you know. So, the emotions that you're writing down on the paper is bleeding through to the other page, which is you, you know. Um,
Yeah, it's
so
like in role play games like D&D and other TTRPGs. It's like when you are as your character and you are interacting or role playing with someone else, and your characters are having an argument, and the argument makes you, not your character, actually you feel a bit upset and like you want to stop that. That is an example of bleed. Likewise, if you are again as like an RPG character, if you are there at a table with people and you have a certain relationship with someone at that table, that might affect how your character interacts with that person's character.
hmm yeah, that's all. That second part is almost. I definitely would like to separate that because that's almost like a reverse bleed.
Mm,
That's like my character is going to do something. There's probably is a terminology for it. So, as an example, and we'll separate that and we'll talk them because I do think there are separate things. Because I think what you maybe described secondly there was I out of character have an agenda, maybe
yeah,
based on something, and that's how my character is going to react. I think that is just informing your character. I think and then when I say agenda, like an agenda could be to go have fun. Like an agenda
mm,
could be right. I out of character. Let's put this in a TTRPG setting. I out of character want my character to go fight a dragon. I want to slay a dragon in this game, right?
yeah,
So when I'm making roleplay decisions, then I'm going to be like, okay, that's my motive. I don't think that's the same as bleed though. I think bleed is when I want to go and kill the dragon, but the rest of the party is like, no, Paladin Oliver, we can't just like it has it's an intelligent being. We've got to go and reason with it. Perhaps there is another side to this story, you know. And I'm like, well, no, you're all being stupid. It's a dragon. Let's go kill it. So my characters then get frustrated. Now the when I if I start feeling frustration towards my fellow players, that is then what I would describe as bleed.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's that and you said you had spoken to someone today actually about this as well because we've been speaking to a few people about this.
Quite a few people actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said something to me that someone else said was that like the character that you're running. So if you're in your character, you feel like you're in the driver's seat of your character in a role play game, right? It is you, right? I know like this may be a difference between that we could maybe try and dissect between like role playing and acting. Um,
Yeah.
if you're acting, then most actors are trained in some way, and if they aren't trained, they need to learn pretty quickly that this is a job, and yeah, will get bleed in acting, but you can kind of it's a matter of like separating it. And in acting, you probably go to depths that you probably wouldn't go in role play, as in making yourself feel uncomfortable for a certain role. It's just like, well, I have to draw on this experience that's unpleasant, but for this acting job I have to find the feeling to then act through it. Whereas role play
Yeah.
and bleed, it is something that a lot of times that you're not entirely looking for. Sometimes you are, and we'll get to that, but sometimes it's something that you're not looking for. You are showing up role playing with someone, then something happens, you feel an emotion, and maybe it is an emotion that your character probably should be feeling at that time. Like if someone's confronting your character about something, you might get a little bit anxious about what's going to happen in character.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the time you're in the driver's seat. You know you're anxious or nervous about the situation in character, not because you think, oh, my character would be nervous. Maybe that is the case, but a lot of the times you actually start feeling some butterflies and going, oh, okay, this person's confronting me, you know, um, and yeah, what you had said to me earlier, like the person had said, you know, the your character is still working off the same hardware as you are. I mean, there's a whole free will conversation to have here, but like sometimes you like it's not something you can help. It's like saying to people, "Calm down," or "Don't be nervous about this speech." It's like you can practice certain things, but your body, like a lot of the times, you are just a slave to your body's reactions
Yeah.
to something. You know, and saying to someone, uh, oh, don't get upset at that. It's like, well, once you've heard what's made you upset, your body is already giving off the reaction of being upset.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, there's so many situations where this happens in LARP, which like it's LARP is weird. And I know I've said that many times that LARP is a weird thing that we do. And it doesn't matter how much I know that real life, I'm not actually going to die on that battlefield. Doesn't matter. Those emotions of fear, of anxiety, of all that coming in, they're all still there because I'm still just a person. Um, on a battlefield running with a load of other people around me, that's still there and it's still real. And LARP for a lot of us is we put a lot of time and a lot of energy into it that it can be very difficult to treat it as one of the phrases that I've seen going around quite a lot is the it's just a game. And that going around, it doesn't always help those feelings that you have, because saying it's just a game doesn't make you feel more confident or less confident, or it doesn't make you suddenly no longer have those emotions, is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
dance around there and say.
yeah, no, no. I have an opinion on the just a game,
Yeah.
because like I understand why people use it's just a game. You know, it is a phrase that its intent is supposed to put things in perspective.
Mhm.
So an example is, oh, I had a bad car accident the other day. Oh, did you? That sounds awful. Are you okay? Yes, I'm totally fine. Unfortunately, my car is completely wrecked. And someone says, well, at least you have, you weren't injured. It's just a car at the end of the day, right? That's the type it's the type of thing to put things into perspective. So in
Yeah.
like a LARP sense, you might be in a position where you're like, it's a continuing LARP game like Empire, and you have a spate of ill health, and you are saying to your friends, "Oh no, I really want to try and get there. It doesn't look like I'm going to get there. I'm really disappointed. I'm just upset that I can't be there for your inauguration, or I can't be there for this cool thing you're doing, or I wanted to bring the camp supplies. I feel like I'm letting you all down." And your friends say, "Look, it's okay. It's just a game." You know,
Yeah.
in this, that the that's the purpose of that phrase, and it's apt in all these circumstances where, yeah, people might get upset about what's happening in the game when they're playing pretend, but it's not overly, yeah, it's not overly useful because it elicits a response of, um you are taking this too seriously, you need to get a grip. That's what it can elicit. It's like, if I'm like, oh, this happened in this game, blah blah blah, my character died, I was really upset. It's just a game. It's like
Yeah.
people don't like to feel like people are calling them stupid. And that's the limitation of that phrase. It's just a game, because a lot of people are aware it's just a game, So and there's a weird line as well with that. I think we all understand what everyone means, right? But when
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 just not overly useful, because there is a line where things it is a game. is it just a game though? You know, what's the line for going right? Okay, this is because what it sometimes comes across as is that you're being childish. You know, because a lot of people have heard that phrase when they
running
were
in crying
yeah
because you've lost a game,
yeah
and then
it's just a game.
your teacher is saying it's just a game.
Yeah, it's just a game.
You're just okay.
And that's supposed to teach, like, yeah, again, perspective of like, okay, well, okay, it's just a game. You have, that's one game, but you have to interact with this other child in the classroom day to day. So that was just, that was just a game. You're putting too much stock into this. So when you're speaking to adults, and the adult, let's face it, in LARP or a D&D game, people put a hell of a lot of stock into it, like emotionally, financially. They put a lot of their time into it, you know. For people, and when it comes to things like games and sports, like there's a time where a game becomes a sport as well, and it's usually when, oh, this is a sport because people do it professionally, and in the end it's a game. I mean, it's a game for, at its base it's a game, but when you say it's just a game, sometimes people are actually making a living out of it. There's people who trade at these games and sell things to people who play these games. These games might be someone's support system, that
Yeah.
yeah. So
I mean, there's a lot of people who do kind of joke when it comes to LARP and being like, oh, I use LARP as my therapy. And obviously, LARP is not therapy, but there's a lot of people who are like, no, I actually depend on it a bit.
yeah,
I need that. I need that time when all technology is switched off, where I don't have to worry about the everyday things of real life that I'm focusing on. I get to switch off from that, and I am someone else. I am a hero. I am a senator. I am something in a game that is just, it takes up so much, and I get to put all my emotions into it, and it is real for those 3 days. This is real, and it's happening. So to have that whole it's just a game can sometimes just make you feel like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah, it is just a game, and forget, yeah,
yeah.
I have real life. And then, well, if it is just a game, and if there isn't as much care as I have into it, then why am I doing it? And
Yeah,
why
it's
am I so passionate? And why am
yeah.
I putting so much stock and so much financial things into it? And that's because it's not just a game, is it?
Yeah, but basically, my issue with it is just a broad statement. I understand why people are using it. People are using
Oh,
it
oh
because
yeah, yeah,
it's like, okay, you've maybe treated someone else, or you're treating a community of people in a certain way. Um, think about it, like that's not an excuse. Like, it's the worst excuse ever to make someone's life difficult over something that isn't actually real. Um, which is a
yeah.
weird thing because, so I we've gone on about this for a while, because it's a weird thing that it's actually connected to Bleed, because Bleed is the problem with Bleed is that it's real. Like, that's the idea. That's what you're describing when you say Bleed. So you have a real emotion with it. You can from the outside, you can objectively say, okay, I'm sad. Am I really sad? A lot of people can't actually differentiate that. We'll talk about, like, when we had our character deaths, but that bleed was so palpable. Like, I had no. I think is because I enjoyed it, because it's like cathartic, and you're like, it's great to talk about. It bonded me with other characters. It bonded me playing with my friends. But that was a reaction that I had no control over. You know, my character died, and I was physically upset.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like, you feel it in the pit of your stomach. I went with it and went, okay, this is part of the ride. We'll get into what, how you can deal with bleed. It's not a bad thing.
No.
But yeah, that was a completely involuntary uh reaction to my character dying, and it completely tracks with having lost something, i.e., my character's life, and the fact that, and we talked about this in the podcast before, it's like, It's what is not going to be. You know, it's like we literally went through stages of mourning for those characters.
I did kind of realize something that I've experienced grief in the past, but I don't think I've experienced grief quite how I thought it was. And that sounds really strange. And people say that there are these 5 stages. And in my head, I've always thought, oh, well, they come one after another, right? I know they blooming don't, because the grief there, I think that one thing that LARP Bleed, and I'm going to actually put this in the positives, because one thing that LARP Bleed has kind of done for me is actually made me kind of get in touch with those emotions, because I don't think I'd ever actually experienced it to that level. I didn't realize that I would wake up in the middle of the night and be upset about what could have been, or that I would miss, like genuinely miss the relationship I had with other people. Those people are still there. I just don't, just the character and the relationship's gone. And it felt like such an immense loss that for a very long time I was like, this is horrible. Like part of me was close to being like, I don't think I want to do this anymore, because I haven't felt like this. Now that I've kind of almost got to the other side of it, I feel a bit more like, wow, this is an incredible thing that we have just gone through. And it's something that not many people can say they've gone through
Yeah.
in such a way.
Yeah, so this since you know, since you've brought it around, I was going to say this maybe towards the end, but I'll bring this up now. This might be a more controversial take, because like bleed isn't, but you know, but bleed can be used in the way you just described. So there's people, you know, having conversations about bleed, whether it's on a tabletop, but more so in LARP. We can talk about tabletop as well. So this is where
Yeah.
it might be a little bit different. So a large scale LARP like Empire, uh, you are going to have that bleed. And I don't think that people are saying this. Like you're going to have that bleed, whether you like it or not. Sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure where certain types of bleed, because yeah, you're talking about bleed as in like, oh, you get joy, because bleed can all be. We'll talk about it as well, like how there's a good bleed, right? You know,
Oh
you
yeah,
can
there's
bring,
good and bad.
yeah. So you know,
Like
you can feel joy. That's a type of bleed. Like you can feel like, yeah, that type of exhilaration, you roller coaster type excitement, like going off to a battle. You know, and you're like, oh wow, that was good. That's bleed. That's something that's completely fake. There's not really a couple of orcs running towards you. You're not actually in any danger. But you're like you say, the hardware of your body is experiencing it, you know, because you put yourself into that position. But you get things like, okay, this is my first ever PvP game, right? Um, and we'll talk about PvP as well. I do want to get onto PvP, because PD have tried, Profound Decisions, who runs Empire, they have tried to talk about PvP, and we'll talk about that. Uh, but you're into your first PvP game. You have an interaction with someone that maybe makes you feel uncomfortable, whether that's you know, one of the emotions like anger or frustration, or disappointment, um, maybe even disgust, right? But what I don't think we should be protecting people from that. As in, when I say protect them, I don't think we should be stopping people, trying to stop people from experiencing it, which is what I worry about. Yeah, like when people are kind of trying to shut the idea of bleed, and I think what people are talking about is more, you know, don't bring out of character stuff into in character stuff. But a lot of that, what they're talking about, is triggered by this reaction called bleed,
yeah.
because something happens, and it might not even be in play. It might be something you hear about, you know, that will affect your character, and you're like, that upsets me, because that you know, my character's doing this. Anyway, back to like a new player, uh, coming in, yeah, they feel that bleed, and it might not go that well. As in, you have a reaction of, oh, I'm really disappointed. I'm gutted. This is horrible. I tried to go for this seat, this interview, this whatever, and someone else got it. This is gutting. I don't like it. I don't want to be here anymore. that's a reaction from what happened to your character, and you are just helplessly feeling those emotions. That feels like a bad emotion that you might want to avoid, but I think that's actually part of the experience of the game,
Yeah.
because that is role playing. If you live in that space, and you can, like, if it's not for you, it's not for you as well. I'm not saying people should just sit and suffer and be like, hey, that's the game, don't play it then, type thing. There's other experiences you can have. But I think a part of role playing games, tabletop and LARP, is that you go in and you experience those, you know, and you won't know what it's like until you experience it.
Yeah.
So what I worry about is people protecting people and going, oh, hey, you shouldn't be angry if your character's angry, because it's gonna be a helpless reaction.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like if we really bleed down, yeah, I've been out of character, absolutely furious and angry, but I've realized that I'm actually feeling angry, and yeah, sometimes I've used that in my character because I'm like, yeah, I'm really angry. I'm really pissed off at this.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm feeling a changeling. I'm going to lean into this a bit, but I'm going to acknowledge that it's happened. I'm going to know it's actually I'm out of character, angry at this situation,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm out of character, really upset about this. And it's important to actually use that and to experience it. It's not something necessarily, like you just said, Oliver, it's not something that you necessarily want to always like shy away from. It's not, it feels like a negative thing, bleed. It's not always negative though. It's something that's going to happen because, like we said, we're all human beings. Like underneath these characters, we're real people, and we're going to feel these things. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can't do anything about it because you will. You're going to be in that field, and something will make you happy and excited.
Yeah.
It's going to make you feel angry. It's going to make you feel maybe upset. And like you said, like all of these emotions are going to come through in one way or another. And that's not always a bad thing.
No.
But it's
If
when we then create a bad situation out of it.
yeah. I'll put a pin in what I was about to say, because I want to address that. So the issue that people have, that we don't want to continue, is having an out of character reaction that isn't helpful in the game.
Yeah.
I.e., you are angry with somebody in character, and you then take that into the community out of character, as in if it's going to be either just like things like harassment, or it's you're speaking to other people being like, oh, I'm not happy that this person has done that, and you're totally getting mixed up with what their character did, um so the big issue, I think, with Empire, and this is moving more into an Empire conversation, is the
Yeah.
type of game it is. Okay. um I've put, fair enough, where we've only been LARPing a couple of years, but I've done lots of like tabletop role play. There's a lot of similar things now. um Empire, compared to, like, the Game of Thrones LARP we did, the Game of Thrones LARP was great because there was no rules, there was no winning, there was no like losing. It was that type of role play experience.
Yeah.
At Empire, there is an essence of winning and losing, because you have positions and you have resources, and resources that are finite. So if you have them, someone else doesn't have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of different mechanics, and we can get into some of the other things there. Now that then causes oh, I didn't get that, so therefore I'm annoyed, type thing. Like when you have like a competitive game, like football or something, and you at the end of the day, you could be like, hey, it's just a game, it's you play five-a-side on a Wednesday night or whatever with the lads, I'm annoyed that I didn't win. Why aren't you annoyed you didn't win? Well, because we didn't we weren't victorious. The prize was what? The prize was like bragging rights. I thought I should have won, and those are feelings that come out of having those types of things in the game. And the issue that people have is, yeah, if you then constantly hold that against somebody who was playing against you. And we can start talking about PvP as well here, because that's what the political PvP game in Empire actually is.
Yeah.
So they call it political PvP. So when you think about PvP, for people who aren't aware, that, I mean, it's quite a broad term, but it means player versus player. So you have player versus player, and usually in like RPGs, you have player, like especially MMOs and things like that, you have player versus environment, which is like everyone who's not a player, monsters and everyone else. So in Empire, the combat is PvE mainly. So you're playing against like NPCs, playing against people who aren't players, basically playing the game.
Yeah.
The PvP is political, right? So part of that game is you have to, if you didn't get something, it's because someone else got it and you didn't, and they did something you didn't, or they stopped you doing from doing something.
And that other person is another player. It's not an NPC.
Yeah.
It's another actual player in the game.
Yeah. So they have entered the game with the same assumptions and the same game parameters as you. Like they're if you're both playing Mario Kart, you're both playing on the same software. You're both playing in the same. You're using the same coding to get Mario around and Luigi around. It's just that one of you got I feel like I shouldn't have run with this Mario Kart thing because I don't know Mario Kart, but one of you got the turtle shell and the other didn't, and you stopped, right? So
Yeah.
you could be like, oh, so part of the fun is that I can't believe you did that to me. Yeah, I'm going to run with this. It feels like quite a good analogy, right? So
Yeah, keep going. I think it can come
yeah,
back around.
I think I can save this, right? So the fun in the Mario Kart isn't, unless you're playing. Let's just say it's just a group of friends. There's no tournament or anything. There's no prize at the end. The idea of the game is, yeah, to win, right? But the fun is, oh my god, I can't believe Luigi did that to me. That's frustrating. Oh no, and everybody laughs, have a good time. The fun experience was the frustration and the other person being victorious. You didn't win because the other person did something to hinder you, or you weren't very good at the game. You weren't practiced at the game. However, if you were to then go, you know what, I'm fed up with this. I can't believe like what they should really do is like give everybody a power up at the start. I can't believe that person used the power up against me. That's bullshit. You know, that's the behavior that's not on when it comes to Bleed, right? That's so if you transfer that to like a LARP game. Now the things with Empire is that it's a large game. These fest LARPs, they're large. They've got a large amount of people in them. And my thing with Empire, because I've seen some people say, is it an Empire problem? I don't think it's systemic to Empire. I think that this is all this, by the way, is just our opinion.
Yeah.
I think that human beings are varied, and they can give you every reaction possible. I honestly think that human beings are able to experience every experience that is out there, but I also think that they are going to give you a multitude of different reactions. Okay. So when you broaden the net, so if you have a table of 6 players that you're running D&D for, you're going to have a selection of reactions to, okay, you go to the village, everybody's been kidnapped, including your families. What do? You're going to get a range of reactions from your players, and when I say your players, not your player characters. You're going to get reaction from your players. Now, how well you know them when you're running a game for them and creating a game for them, you are tweaking the game to suit them. Okay, like you know what reaction you might get. There's certain things that I can do in Robyn's game if I run for Robyn that I wouldn't be able to do in other people's games. Either they might not enjoy it, or they, there's something in there that really gets them. So one example for like you, Robin, you have a habit of like kind of adopting monsters, So like
Mhm.
because there's a limit. There's a limit in D&D. So we're playing D&D,
Found it
and
yet.
yeah, and it's just like, oh yeah, okay, well you want to pet warg and you want to pet dragon, you want to pet this and pet that. Okay, so killing monsters is maybe a little bit of an issue unless I make them sentiently evil. So for you, I have to be like, I'm actually going to put more, especially uh morally reprehensible characters for you in there, right? So that works for you because you can go, oh yeah, that's a bad person, that's a bad elf or dwarf or whatever. I'm okay fighting and ultimately killing that person, right?
Thing is, maybe the warg had a bad upbringing, so I'm never going to kill the warg. It's just not
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah. However, if I were to broaden that, okay, because I'm running just for you, if I were to broaden that to, 100 people, I might get I'll get a few people being like, well, I might get someone like me who's like, oh, well, actually, are sentient beings even responsible for their own actions, just like an animal? You might get people who go, actually, no, I agree with that person. I don't think he's morally reprehensible at all. That you might get another person who'd be like, oh, well, actually, I think you like those animals. I don't. I think my character would hate these animals. You're going to get a broader range because I've tailored it for you, but I can't expect everybody I run if I run for 100 people. Now
Mm.
imagine expanding that to 1,000 people, and I put something in front of you. I'm going to get such a wide range of reactions to things, So especially if you're a character in that world, you can't expect the players to like the game runners can only put stuff in front of players, and some players will react in a certain way, you know especially when it's there's no vetting process here. Like, it's literally, can you buy a ticket, bring your kit, and come, right?
Yeah.
If you're not fit for the game, this will start to become apparent, and I think honestly Bleed is part of that. If if it comes to a point where you're like, oh, actually, one, I hate Bleed, or this Bleed is making me really angry, I'm going to then take that out on the entire community, then it's maybe not the community for you, you know. But I honestly don't think it's because, oh yeah, the game is wrong.
No.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I do. I agree with that. Like
Mm.
the way that we've put that. Yeah. Like it's a difficult situation. Like when it comes to bleed and when it comes to how people react to bleed as well. Like you've said, we all react differently. We're all going to take a different stance on how we respond to it. The only time I think it becomes like a really big issue is when, like you said, people take it out on other people, not other characters,
Mhm.
not in game time, but directly at other people. That's when we end up with a really serious problem because that is no longer PvP. That is then somebody targeting another person, and it's never okay to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So we will circle around to Bleed. I want to get to PvP because someone said something today on
Yeah.
one of the things that did make me think, actually, and it was like, it's not made clear with the PvP at Empire. So this is more of an Empire thing. It's probably applicable to some other games. Uh, it does this does have stuff to do with Bleed, right? So the PvP, the prizes for PvP suck, right? That and I found myself going, right, actually no, I agree with this, right? So
Yeah.
the prizes that you get for a game like Empire, they're not great. Like, it's not as if it's not a king of the hill situation where you get a massive power up and you go, oh, cool. Like, becoming the Empress doesn't mean that, you get a magic hammer that will basically make all your combats really easy. It's not that type of PvP. A lot of the time, because it's limited resources on that field, that everyone is vying for, and especially with more people coming in, it's only going to get worse. A lot of the time, you're going to claw your way to the top, and if it's the prize that you're after, so if it's that brass ring that you want to reach for, I've got a feeling that you'll get there, and I think most people do. And let me rephrase that. I think if you're expecting that brass ring, and if you're after it to be the, oh yeah, I got the prize, I won, I think you'll be disappointed. I think a lot of people aren't playing it that way, and let me try and explain this. So you are going for like a position. In fact, actually, Robyn, do you want to like tell your like
Yeah.
experience with your
Yeah.
version of this? Because this
Okay.
is a little bit of bleed and a little bit of PvP. Because I have opinions on your Knight Protector game from last year
Okay.
when it comes to PvP and bleed.
Yeah. So last year I went for Night Protector of Winter as my previous character, Arnel Mortar. Now, when it came to going for this position, now the way that it's brought in, first of all, it's a tourney, it's a last person standing situation in the tourney, in the glory square, in Dawn. Now you can have people fight for you in a tourney. You can put yourself forward, you can put your case out to other people, and you can get people to fight for you. Obviously, the more people you've got, the more experienced people you've got as well, it increases your chances. Okay. The end prize of this is you are the Knight Protector. The perks that gives you is you do get a banner, so you can go into Conclave with all your armor on and weapons, which is great. The main prize is you get game, you get skirmishes that you're in. The main prize is you almost die every season because you get pick skirmishes,
Yeah,
and you're in
yeah.
charge of these. Now, when it came, this is something I wanted. Obviously, I like fighting, I like skirmishing. This is what I like, and I love the job, love the position. I love the fact that I could bring lots of new players out onto skirmishes and let them see what a skirmish was, because not everybody gets to do them. Now, this did become PV. It's obviously PvP on a couple of different things. First of all, I pitched myself to a lot of houses in Dawn, and I convinced a lot of houses to fight for me. There's other contestants, and I didn't know who all the other contendants were within this, but everybody does things differently. And then when it came to actually being like appointed, I was then in charge of all these skirmishes, and that meant I had control on who went on the skirmish, who didn't go on the skirmish, and who was leading the skirmish, because I acknowledged that at the time I wasn't experienced enough to lead a skirmish, and so I chose to put someone else in charge of leading, and so on. The bleed really came when, and I'm going to be completely honest here and transparent. I had a lot of negative bleed around this role. It's a role that I loved, but unfortunately, people weren't very quiet. And I heard a lot of things, and I also read a lot of things in different communities online. And one of the main things that came up was, well, she only got it because she got that house, and that house to fight for her. So she like power gained it, she got all these houses. And then I had other people being like, oh, well, she's only really taking, like, she's not letting everybody come on the skirmish. She's being too select on who gets to go and who doesn't get to go. And I saw this. And when I saw it all, I just kind of went, oh, like, this is my game. This is a bit of the game I love and I love doing. And I thought I did everything right. And then that's when I kind of stopped and realized, oh, this is no longer in character. This is now becoming a thing where people were actually not happy with me, as in Robyn, not RNL. They were not happy with me. And that was a really weird thing to get over, because I started to feel a bit uneasy around certain groups of people. I started to feel like, oh, do I reach out? Do I say something? Does this entire group not like me now because of a decision that I've made? And I felt like and then we circle back to what you said, Oliver. What was the reward that I got? The reward that I got is that I got to go and do these cool fun skirmishes, and then I was getting criticized for how I was doing them. And it was hard and it was really tough. And when it came to creating Nymeria, I had all this in mind when I was going into it. I had all the negative things I'd read online, all the things that I'd heard from people. And I almost didn't create Nymeria how I wanted to because of all those things. It wasn't until friends and people in my own group actually brought me back round to be like, no, you play the game you want to play. Because at the end of the day, we all pay the same money to go to that event, to pretend to be someone else, to enjoy ourselves. And we should be going for the roles that we want to go for. We should be doing the game that we want to do. And that's what's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I want to make this very clear about the when I talk about the prizes, because you've already sort of explained it with like, oh yeah, it was the experience. So when I say the prizes are crap, the Knight Protector, right? So especially that skirmish we did at E3 last year, you know, we we worked our asses off. You worked your ass off to make sure that skirmish had a high amount of success. You made sure that there was a good broad spectrum of people from different nations. We did have a few of our friends on there. We wanted to win, yeah, of course. So we brought a load of power with us. We had people that couldn't get on the last skirmish you organized on there as well. And all in all, if you were just going for that, I want to be Night Protector because this, right? We spent a lot of our own in-character money to do things there. We asked a lot of favors, and in the end, you know, yeah, we were successful in the skirmish. It's not as if the Empire thanked us, you know. It's not as if we got paid for it in character. There was no, oh yeah, you killed the Winter Herald. Here's a magic sword, Link. There we go. Now you can travel back in time to the Empire. Like we did, that wasn't the prize for doing that, right? So if you came into that thinking, oh yeah, you know, I'm annoyed that I didn't get Knight Protector because the person who did went off, did that skirmish and won Empire. That's not a thing. And what I want to be clear is when I say the prizes are crap is because yeah, like you do all that work and you don't really get anything at the end of it apart from, and this is the important thing, this is where Bleed comes into it, apart from the experience. So even the in-character people coming to you in character being like, hey, this skirmish is in my home, you should let me on this skirmish, and you're like, no, I'm the Knight Protector, or hey, you know, maybe next time. So you get to have that interaction. That is the reward of roleplay. So that can be Bleed, but the role play should the game should be played for the role play's sake, not the prizes you get to end of it. I know people play RPGs for the other reason. I know, I know there are people that play D&D, and I can't quite wrap my head around it. I know people enjoy playing D&D for like, let's power game and get the treasure at the end. I don't care about like the story or characters. Yeah, sorry, there's a bird like
I
outside
can't
that
hear it.
wants to be on the podcast. Well, I never know. He might make it to the podcast. He's just wanting fame. Actually, like that, bringing that up. So, I've experienced this.
Mhm.
Um, I've literally had we have a podcast, right? Uh, I've had people say, "Hey, you've got. I think you've got that bit of plot." You know, maybe not in these exact words, but basically saying, "Hey, you got that piece of plot because you have visibility in the Empire community." You know, I've had people say, "Hey, you got that because you know you're an influencer, you know, or you're a YouTuber," and I'm like, I mean, first of all, I'm not a massive YouTuber, but that is a very out of character thing, you know, to say that
Yeah.
I got this special treatment in game because of something that I do out of character. Um, you know what, as well, I'm not saying, hey, don't say that because that makes me angry. I'm just bringing that up because who knows, that might be the case. You know, hey, I mean, if PD want to give me a leg up because I have a podcast, I don't think they should, but if they want to,
Also,
um,
highly doubt that's the case.
no, I mean,
It's like it kind of discredits in a way like what we've done in game to be able to get to do certain
Yeah.
things. And then when that is said, it does kind of make you feel like, ah, okay.
Yeah, because that's saying
So
something about the person saying it. The person saying it is like, oh yeah, no, that what applies to you doesn't apply to me, so I'm kind of bitter about it, you know. And it's not in the spirit of just playing the game for the game's sake, you know. So what one thing that has come up as well is um, friends, right?
yeah,
We've already said, like in a in an unironic way, that like Friends is overpowered in LARP, especially at Empire, right? It is a game that you want to, create friends, create connections, um,
definitely.
and yeah, when you do things, you do things in groups, right? The Empire, even on the broader scale, right? The idea that the Empire works from I'm not the game designer, but funnily enough, like we've had a few generals on this podcast that have said, hey, one army can't do anything, and that's obviously by design. So you need the other armies of the other nations to cooperate with you if you want to do something, and that trickles down through the whole game, that type of thing. Like, you need other people to help you out. The game is designed for you to group up with other people. um so if you make friends and you as friends achieve something, you know and then now you're in a position to be like, hey, we have this. I'm going to divvy out the spoils of what I've tried to accomplish. If I've got a sinecure or something, I'm going to
Yeah.
distribute that among my out of character friends that I've made in character, or vice versa, because they're my friends and I enjoy doing stuff with them, and they help me get this sinecure. So one of the issues that might come up is that people go, hey, they shouldn't be doing that with that sinecure. They gave it to that person. Why did they give those resources to that person? It's just like, well, I'm not going to argue out of character if that's their out of character friend, you know.
Yeah.
And if they've done the work, again, they've got to that position. They've played the game. They've got what they've got now. Um, the idea is that you then move on and you try again. And unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, it's part of the game. Like, literally, I've heard PD say this, like, going for titles, expect disappointment. As in, you might at an event of ours you go to, I'm pretty sure they said this on one of their podcasts. I think it was the PvP one. They were like,
Yeah, I
if
think
you
it
come
was.
to one of our events, this is won't be word for word, but if you come to one of our events, you might go home disappointed and gutted that you worked to get that senator seat and it didn't happen, or whatever it is. So that type of thing comes down to, this is actually part of the game. Of, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. Someone's going to get it over you. There's only so many senator seats. There's only so many general seats. There's only so many sinecures and boss seats. You might not get it.
But that shouldn't stop you from going for
Hmm.
something because of that.
Yeah.
Or it also shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't like create the sort of thing of, oh, I didn't get it, not because there was a stronger candidate, or
Hmm.
because I didn't quite have the right what they were looking for.
Yeah.
I didn't get it because that person's already got it, sort
Yeah.
of thing. That's a different
Yeah.
thing. Instead, going for these things is so important because it shows that you're interested in that part of the game.
Hmm.
Like, let's take you, Oliver, for an example here. Like, at your first ever event, going for general, like that's obviously like I think we were pretty sure you weren't going to get general because we didn't know what a general was, and we didn't really know anything. But you doing that meant you, as a brand new player at your first ever event, got to sit down in military council. You got to put your hand up and make a vote. You got to do that because the person that actually got the seat saw how interested you were and went, right, come with me. I'll show you this part of the game. You can learn about it. You can make connections. You can see what this is. And, I'm even going to let you sit in for me when I need to nip away and come back.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that's because that's how you do it. In this game, you have to put yourself out there and you have to show that, because even if you don't get it, you've made it clear that you're interested in that part of the game, and someone else is going to see that. You're going to be able to make those connections, which means, yeah, you didn't get it this time, you might get it next time or the time after that. Or you might end up getting invited to do cool shit and then realize it's maybe not for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's important to just keep going for these things. the worst thing you can do is to leave at that point and be like, well, that was a bit rubbish. I'm going to go and talk about it online because it's
Yeah.
as I see.
Well, okay, yeah. So like, yeah, bringing bleed into it. So the disappointment, yeah, it's okay to be disappointed. I like this is the thing. This is the good thing about bleed is like it's okay to feel out of character, disappointed that you didn't get that
Yeah.
seat. That's okay. Like live in it and experience it. You know, the whole fun of us dying, was living in that experience. This experience you're not gonna get. It's like a type of mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
So one thing about TTRPGs, I've done this with my TTRPGs a lot, and I enjoy doing this because it is like a type of mindfulness, right? I will play characters that hold opposite views to what I have. I quite enjoy that. And sometimes especially if it's a long form game, I know that I've had characters that have had a view. When I say a view, I like usually like just because I like to think. I like to think that I have a broad kind of very. I try to have a nuanced opinion about things, but I've played the very black and white paladin. This is what I quite like because I'm not a black and white person at all. So I quite like playing that. No, this is bad. This is good. And that's that. And I've been in situations where I got actually frustrated, and I'm feeling angry, talking to a character that is actually holding a position closer to the one I hold in real life. You know, and I'm arguing my perspective, and I am like, no, this obviously like, and I can feel myself I feel that bleed coming through, and why it's a type of mindfulness is because then you can sit back and you just go, well, what does it all mean then? Like when you get angry about something, you know, what does that actually mean? People think it means one thing. Oh, I'm angry because that's I'm right and you're wrong. But when you role play, especially when you role play something you don't even think, and you feel angry, you're like, well, wow, this is just a response to something like chemical in the brain or whatever it is. Something that's
Yeah.
it's like we said at the start, the hardware is just firing because you press the button. It's nothing to do with, oh, in the broader scheme of things, there's an injustice being done and that's why you're angry. No, you're angry because you press the right button on the hardware, and the software's going, okay, well, this is what anger is. Let's experience it. That's a real special thing that you can do through role play, and you can't do for anything else. You can force that, and that's where the fun is, if you want to dive into that. And I think that's the fun part of the game. The fun part, especially in a thing like Empire, is what I mean. So trying to make it clear when I say the PvP prizes are crap, they are, but the prize is doing the role play. The prize is having the senator come up to you and be like, "Why did you vote that way?" You know? Oh, I thought you were my friend. This is betrayal. Oh, this
Yeah.
is sparking a reaction in my body that I'm like, oh, the prize isn't, oh cool, I've got all the money now because I'm the senator. No, the prize is being able to role play as the senator, of a fantasy world.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And everything you just described there, when you describe the prizes, when you describe all these things, you describe them all as I see things. These are all in character things, in character feelings, in character emotions. These are the kind of things that you were like excited for between events. You don't really like, didn't get that last time. And oh, just wait till next time. I'm going to be doing this and that and everything. But you're excited and you're planning. And this is good. This is good sort of bleed. Like you can be disappointed and angry at not getting something, but not let that then affect yourself outside of the game, because the game itself is in this pocket. Like it's in this one little section, and stepping out of it and being angry at the actual players behind these people, like you didn't get the senatorship. So being angry at the person who did get the senator, that's one thing. Being angry at the person who plays that character is something totally different. And that's when things get nasty. That's when situations happen where
Yeah.
That's when situations happen where PD have to step in, and nobody
Yeah.
really wants that.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about the things we can do to deal with bleed then?
Yeah.
So, uh, one of the big things is going to be check-ins, right? So a big problem with a game like Empire, these fest LARPs, maybe even a LARP that's got like 80 people in it, right? When you're like doing a role play around a tabletop RPG, it's easier for the game master to facilitate things like let's do check-ins, right? And everyone is observant of those check-ins sometimes, especially if it's like you've got someone who is their character is going through something that it's upsetting their characters, and you can literally see the GM being like, okay, are you okay? And all the other players mean like, are you okay? Or there's an altercation between two players, and it's just like, oh, are we all cool with this? Out of character, are we
Yeah.
all cool with this? Cool, let's go. And then halfway through at the end, you're like, hey, are we all good? We just had an argument. Yeah, everyone at the tables observed that. As something like Empire, a new player can just wander onto that field, and we all go time in, and they can see me storm off to a tent and go and shout at someone else and say, you bastard, you did this, and we can have a full on heated argument. And they can observe that and be like, "Oh, that was quite cool," or "Wow, that was intense," But they don't have the context of I messaged that person before. Went, "Hey, my character is actually really angry with your character currently. Do you mind if we? Are you okay if we like? If my character comes up and has a go at your character at the start of the next event?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Blah, blah, blah. And then they don't see the check-in afterwards. They don't see like the Thursday night when I'm going around having a beer with them. I'm like
Yeah.
just which by the way, this Thursday because I'm playing Damon. Um, I feel like Thursdays is a need for me because Damon isn't like me, and I'm very like I'm very happy and I love going around and seeing people and having drinks and things like that. Whereas Damon's a bit more very dry, but that's what they don't see, So
Yeah.
they can just see an IC interaction. Another one is ball gowning is a big one, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
So, like ball gownings, you need to have those out of character conversations and check-ins, right? Ball gowning, for people who don't know that term, we talked about it before. It is doing a role play romantic romantic role play, basically
Yeah.
relationships, things like that, flirting, all that type of thing, so you don't just assume, oh yeah, I want to go and initiate a relationship or pursue a relationship that's romantic with this character, without doing your check-ins. There are things that you can get away with as well. Like, I'm not going to say, because sometimes people say, oh yeah, you have to check in everything. You can't. Not on a game the size of Empire. Like, I can,
No.
like, at Empire, it's perfectly okay to walk up to someone and go, I'm going to pursue a friendship with this person. You know, I'm going to pursue a rivalry with this person because I know that they have an opposite thought and I want their job or something. That's going to be okay initially, but when things start getting a bit more intense and intimate in role play, that's the time then you then reach out and be like, "Yo, are you okay? To pursue this. Do you want more of this? Do you want less of this?" Like as Godric, I had interactions with orcs that were quite yeah, there was a bit of like jibing backwards and forwards, the way the Imperial orcs are. Obviously it's a little bit more, that they may have had like a standoffish approach to the first interaction. And there was a bit of backwards and forwards as well about fighting styles and this, that, the other. And then because that got elongated with a second interaction, we then spoke out of character and went, "Oh yeah, hey, by the way, do you want more of this? Less of this? Are you okay with it?" Yeah, that was the time to step in and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, are you okay? Did you enjoy that? Because when people are role playing, and especially when they have bleed, again, you have a physical reaction. Like, so if you're crying that your best friend in character has died, they've come back through the Sentinel Gate, you're crying, you know? To facilitate the role play, people probably aren't going to be like, "Hey, are you in character okay?" If you're a stranger to that person, you probably want to just let them role play it out. it's then up to the people who are role playing them being like, hey, by the way, actually, are you all right? Like when the
Yeah.
game is done, are you actually okay? Was that all right for you? And they're like, no, it was great, even though they had the physical reaction of crying. And in the moment, if you were to like, I don't know, hook their body up to some like measuring equipment, the heart rate's going. It's like everything tracks with someone who is physically upset.
Mm.
But after the fact that they're like, no, I actually enjoyed it because I enjoyed the role play of it.
Exactly. And with these sort of check-ins and everything, especially before things happen, you can say no. You can say no, you're not comfortable with that happening. Like, and I can give you an example. This in game, somebody who I know quite well came up to me out of character and was like, yeah, by the way, like my character saw you do something. My character's not happy with this, and my character really wants to have a go at you with this. Are you actually comfortable with this? And at that time I was like, I'm actually not comfortable with that at all. That's a bit, I think that's too much for me to handle at this point.
Yeah.
This is quite early in my LARPing sort of time. I'm not really okay with it. Can you wait until tomorrow? I want to check a couple of things and then maybe get back to you on it, but tonight's not going to be happening. And they were like, yeah, no, that's totally fine and everything. And we had that check-in and everything. And it is important to know that you can, if somebody's coming up to be like, yeah, my character's pissed at you, by the way. You okay with this to happen? You can literally be like, no,
Yeah.
it's just not for me for whatever reason. I've done a lot of check-ins with people while I've been role playing, more so as Nymeria than anything else, because Nymeria is not like how I would normally be. So I kind of worry a bit there. I've done check-ins. The way that I do check-ins is I always try to do it at an event. But if I can't do an event, because that's not always possible, I normally always follow up with like an online check-in, whether that's on like so Facebook or Discord or something. And I'll do like a check and do be like, hey, like, what are you actually okay with that? I find that sometimes can be better as well because a couple of days have passed. That means people have had time to maybe think about it and everything. And then they're able to come back and be like, actually, no, maybe I wasn't okay or whatever, you know? There's been one time in particular though, and I'll hold my hands up to this. And this was, I think I've mentioned this before in a podcast actually, where we were battling and I got so angry at somebody on the monster side, like so ridiculously angry because they weren't taking their hits and everything else. And I was just like furious. And I realized I'm like shouting a lot and I'm going for this person. And it wasn't until we ended up moving out and I saw the persons were moving out, I ran up to them like in the battle out and I went, I was like, look, out of character. Are you okay? I'm sorry for getting so angry back there. And their response was not what I was expecting. They were like, oh no, it was great and everything. I was like, I'm feel because somebody literally had to move me from that section because I was getting so angry at you. And I was felt that and they were like, no, it's fine. And we did that check-in and it's all good. That way it's not like festering. I think that gets worse if things like fester for a long period of time as well. So like those check-ins are one of the best ways you can deal with this sort of interaction, this sort of bleed.
Yeah, because you brought that up as well. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend, by the way, and I'm definitely not suggesting this, that this isn't all confusing, because this is very confusing, and that's why I don't think it's a clear like, right, okay, this type of bleed bad. You can't react like this to this type of bleed. Like this gets confusing, because we're dealing with human emotions, which are confusing, right? It is role play. It's a role play game. If we are playing the game of football, there is there's, I mean, maybe not the best example. There's a big culture around it outside the game. But if we're looking at just the game,
Oh, so you know nothing about football?
I know nothing about football. But you look at the game. There is rules in the game. The people that are playing the game play by the rules, right? When emotions get into it, then someone intervenes. It's like you have joy. Like if you're elated that you scored a goal, yeah, you're elated because you scored the goal, but that has nothing to do with the game and the score, right? If you scored a goal and you have no emotional reaction, it's still a goal, right? It doesn't like being emotional. I mean, you can make arguments for like morale and things like that, but all in all, the playing of the game doesn't really like rely on emotions. If you're good at playing angry, play angry. If you're good at playing happy, if you have no emotions whatsoever, as long as you score the goal, that's fine. A role-playing game, that is the game, you know? And
Yeah.
to be like, right, okay, I'm playing the game, I'm getting human emotions from having human interactions, even if that human is pretending to be an orc, right? I'm getting those reactions. That's role play. That's part of the game. It's just important to understand. That's why people say it's just a game. You know, it's important to understand that what you're feeling is a product of a game. And I'm not saying either that some of those reactions shouldn't tell you something out of character either. You know, if this specific interaction is making you angry all the time because you actually don't like this person, you might want to think, hey, do me and this person just do not gel? Am I enjoying this? No, I'm not enjoying it. I don't like these angry feelings that I'm getting. Maybe I don't. Maybe the energies just aren't there between me and this person. Maybe I should go role play with someone else, which is a good thing about having a big game because you've got
Yeah.
options to get who you go to play with. You know, if you're at the tabletop and Bob is just annoying you, and their character is annoying you, you can't go anywhere because you're just like, well, I've got to interact with Bob because he's our rogue, and we need to get him in. We need him to get into the treasure chest. You know, so I have to put up with Bob. You know, so I'm gonna have to go to someone and be like, hey, either Bob needs to change his role play because it's annoying me out of character. But at Empire or a big fest LARP, you can actually go off and speak to someone and be like, so at Empire specifically, when it comes to out of character issues, so this isn't really a bleed thing. Like bleed is one of those things that, you know, it's human emotion, so it's not something that PD can regulate. I'm sure that, you know, they have. I should really check their wiki actually because I don't know if they've got a section on their wiki on bleed. It comes under like just the role play umbrella a lot of time, but
Yeah.
but if it comes to, right, someone is out of character, angry at you, and you feel like it is affecting your game, there are avenues that you can take. So that's kind of not what it's not really what you're supposed to do in the game. It's a conduct issue because
Yeah.
being angry at someone or giving somebody abuse because they've done something in character, especially when it's online out of the game, is not really part of the game's conduct.
Yeah, no, exactly. So like if it is like between events and there's things happening online, like PD do have a full team of people that are dedicated to looking after that online space. And if something has happened and you do need to try and get their attention over to it, or you want to speak to them, there's a few different email addresses that you can use. One of the main things that PD uses is their feedback at profounddecisions.co.uk. That's where you get your sort of like you can do all your feedback of various things, but you can also message that one. But they also do have one for their online mods, which is just mods at profounddecisions.co.uk. That's really good for, obviously, if you are trying to direct their attention to something online, maybe something that's happening in a forum, a Discord, Facebook group, like anything like that. But PD also have a full conduct team. And if
Yeah,
you head over to the wiki, there is a whole list
yeah,
of all the different things to make sure people are not violating these sort of conduct rules that are in place. And there's a conduct email as well that you can message if you do need to raise something. If bleed has led to something that has caused someone to out of character attack you as a person, and to bring up these things, it is so important to just let PD know about it because they can then do something about it.
yeah.
Obviously, we're not part of PD, but I'm sure they'll agree with me saying that they don't want anyone in their game to feel like they can't reach out. There's all these emails, there's all these people in place to help you because they want you to reach out and they want to make sure everybody is safe and having fun in the game.
Yeah,
And that's the main thing.
I'm sure a lot of other games, whatever your local LARP is or the LARP you go to, I'm sure they have similar views on
Yeah.
this. This has been a obviously a little bit of a heavier topic. It's a little bit more confusing than I thought it was going to be to talk about, but that's why I felt like we should probably talk about it, because it is. Just reading some of the comments today online kind of made me think, actually, this is such a massive part of the game that we should really be talking about. Not because, oh yeah, this is just a difficult subject that we should maybe broach. It's part of the hobby. It, like, Bleed is part of the hobby. It is something that is ever present there and can affect all of us. And like I said, especially when you've got a big player base like Empire, you're going to get all the different human reactions possible. But if anybody wants to message us about it, if you want to comment down below, if you want to even send us an email, if you're a little bit confused, or if hopefully we put our thoughts across and there wasn't too much confusion at what we actually think about the subject, because it's not an easy subject to kind of quantify, because you're talking about human emotions, obviously. And then for my actual friends that may listen to this, obviously, if you have anything you want to talk out with me and me and Robyn, just give us a message. I think we'll wrap it there, right?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of like finish with just reiterating one really important thing, and that is every single character that you interact with has a person behind it, and that person is not the character. They're two very separate people, and it is really important to keep that in mind. You never know what another person's going through, and bringing these in-game things into out-of-game situations, whether that is a message online or a comment somewhere, it can really affect someone. So showing that bit of kindness can go a long way. And if you're genuinely unhappy with something in the game, instead of directing it to that person who plays a character, PD have so many avenues you can use, so many emails that you can go through, that you can actually speak to somebody from PD and voice your concerns there, where it's much more practical and effective than going after someone.
Yeah. Also, it's just a game, Anyway.
I can't believe you said that.
Anyway, thank you very much for watching this episode of LARP Tales. Please make sure you comment, like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you're listening on an audio platform, leave us a 5-star review. Go check out the Patreon if you want to support us. With that, we'll see you next week. It's almost LARP time, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.